All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 50. It's pretty hard to believe we've already hit 50 when we've just kind of started this thing a little over a year ago. But here we are, episode 50, halfway to 100 here. We're flying through these episodes. But unfortunately, we just had a little bit of a scheduling conflict this last little bit. So we're dropping on a little bit of an unusual day. We're dropping on the Thursday instead of the Wednesday, but shouldn't change things up too much here because the news and everything else that's happened hasn't been too drastic in that little bit. So everything should work out here, but we're dropping Thursday, June 16th for this episode number 50. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a rewind and we're going to find out if we're actually hot or if we're cold. You know, the segment ice cold hot takes here. We're going to find out who's the coldest and who's the hottest on the 2021 NFL season. So before we get into a little bit of the insiders and headliners and our off-season segment this episode, we'll say hello to the fellas there and see how everybody's doing here in this, what seems like forever since I've seen Armand a little bit here, obviously with football, but feels like it's been a while since I've seen Zach. So maybe we'll go to Armand first and then we'll wrap it up with the man that I haven't seen in what feels like 2 weeks. So Armand, what's been keeping a little busy here this last little bit?
Spring football camp. We get 5 days during the spring here to try and sharpen our guys a little bit and try and get our hooks sunk into some boys that hopefully they come back in the fall that maybe just wanted to try football. And you know, it's been a lot of fun being out there and with no games or anything really like pressure. It's been a nice light-hearted spring camp, and it's been a lot of fun. Guys are getting excited. You can tell the boys that are fully into football are rearing to go, and they're excited for the coming season this fall.
And then how about yourself, Zach? You guys started spring camp yet, or what's been keeping you busy?
Yeah, we had our our spring camp rather last week, so that was nice getting to see all the coaches again. Yeah, unlike at St. Mary's, most of our coaches are community guys, so or community people, and hadn't seen some of them since November, so it was nice catching up with them again. And then just end of the year stuff at school, transitioning new students in, transitioning students out. So busy time, but it'll all be worth it in a few weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year right now. It would have been actually kind of nice if we would have had spring camp last week with the nice weather we had last week. And then this week we've just been getting dumped on with rain. It's been kind of unfortunate, but today was nice. No rain today, rained all day, and then get out for practice. And she was dry as a popcorn fart out there, I'll tell you. But yesterday was just brutal. Like, we had spring camp there. Sunday was our first day, but it drizzled Monday kind of off and on. But yesterday, like, that was a downpour all day. And that was, oh man, I don't know about you, Arm. I was so soaked. I had to go home. I was so cold. I had to have a shower after. I was so cold after practice yesterday. It was just brutal.
Yeah, man. Like, I thought I'd have to spend the whole evening trying to warm up again. Luckily, my raincoat kept me fairly warm, but I was still soaked underneath my raincoat. It was wild. And when my hood caught a bunch of water when I went to untie my cleats after practice, I just dumped a bunch of water. I was like, oh my.
We were running those 2-on-2s at their 2v2, at the end of practice. And man, I felt so bad for my cues into the wind, like absolutely just soaked rubber footballs trying to get these things out there. It was just not happening. So we're trying to play a hitch fly drill. And it was just like the fly weren't happening because the wind was terrible. And I couldn't catch the hitches because it was too wet. Oh man, it was like watching little kids play football. It was just hilarious.
Oh man, I was doing pitch drills, the RBs, LBs, and I looked over at you guys and I was like, oh my.
Our head coach goes, how'd that drill go over there? Well, it didn't. Move along. But yeah, it's busy. I don't know if I've actually mentioned this on the pod yet, but I actually have a new position coming up next school year. So this year, with about a little under a week and a half of school left, it's been kind of, packing up my boxes and getting myself ready to go. I'm going to be a vice principal next year. So going from one new position to the next and kind of packing my stuff at the school, packing my stuff up at the office, get myself ready to go to the new school. It's just been kind of hectic. So it's actually kind of nice. The football's been breaking it up a little bit, giving me something to do and look forward to outside of the work day. But obviously we're here now going to talk about my favorite football, and that's fantasy football. So we'll get things rolling here with a little bit of insiders and headliners.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
We're kind of in that dead zone here where, mini camps are starting. The big news, and hopefully fingers crossed, not a lot of news coming out of mini camps, because most of the time it's just injury and it's things that kind of piss us off before the season even starts. But a couple of pieces here. The big one is Cooper Kupp, the Triple Crown winner of last season, wide receiver 1, and Super Bowl MVP, gets his payday. He still had 2 years remaining on his contract, but he signs the 3-year extension on top of that. So the 3-year extension ends up being 80 million, 75 of that fully guaranteed, but he's going to be with the Rams organization for 5 years and a total of 110 million. It's pretty common to see, especially the MVP, but Super Bowl champions and guys that had successful seasons throughout not only the NFL season, but the postseason as well, to get this payday. But it just seems like the Rams are the ones just throwing this money out to everybody. Everybody's getting a payday for the Rams. Matthew Stafford got a payday. A bunch of defensive players now obviously Cooper Kupp's getting this payday. It seems like just the couple comments you get from friends and talking about they're playing like franchise mode on Madden without a salary cap. They're just throwing money around like crazy. But this is somebody that's well deserved this contract. But I'm kind of want to take a little bit of time out of this one because I think this is worth the conversation. We're starting to get close to draft season. We still got the whole summer to come, and people are starting to do mock drafts, and Scott Fishbowl's coming up soon. People are already doing best ball drafts. Just real quick, do you think either one of you guys, do you think that Cooper Kupp repeats as wide receiver 1 in fantasy football next year? Let's go Armand first.
I was actually just talking about him with one of our coworkers right after school today, and he was kind of asking my opinion because he's been trying to deal for him, I believe, in his dynasty league. And what I told him is like the hype is huge on him right now because he had such a huge season, and we got to cool our jets a little bit. We can't expect him to come back next year and do the exact same thing again. Like that was a historic season that he had, not only for his own career, but like in all NFL history, right? Like it's one of the top 3 seasons wide receivers ever had. I could see him being the wide receiver 1 again, but it's not going to be automatic. And I'm going to say, no, he's not going to repeat.
Zach, do you think he does?
I think if I had to pick one receiver that I would place money to be the overall wide receiver 1, it would be him. But I also know that much like Armand, I would take the field as opposed to going Cooper Kupp. But it is interesting though, if you look at some of those other presumptive, top 5, top 6 receivers, like Adams in a new team, so you don't know what that's going to bring. Chase, he still has to share with Higgins, who's really becoming an ascending talent. Jefferson, what does that look like in mini? So it's
the new offensive system too.
Yeah, I would like I said, if there was one receiver to pick, I'd probably say Kupp, but the odds are that it's not going to be him. So take the field.
It's incredibly difficult to repeat as the number 1 wide receiver. Running back, I think it's a little bit easier. You kind of come to expect, but there's so many things that has to go right for wide receivers to do it. But I say actually just looking at some of the stats, and I heard this one, there is for 1,800 for CeeDee Lamb to lead the league in reception yards. So I was like, like that's a juicy one, plus 1,800 to put down, the $20 or something on that. Like some of a lot of the prop bets are starting to come out for the season long prop bets, and there's some pretty interesting ones in there. So that's something that was obviously a prop bet, was who's going to be wide receiver 1. So we getting a payday, be interesting conversation to see if he can repeat himself. He's one premier wide receiver. That's his situation hasn't really changed. Like Zach had mentioned, a lot of those other ones starting to find some new homes. So it's definitely something interesting to consider when we start getting to draft season.
One thing to remember, though, too, is he is no longer a secret anymore in that offense. He's going to be getting the number one guy every week, whereas last year, some teams might not have necessarily, especially at the beginning of the season, or when OBJ entered the fold either.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one too, is if he resigns. Obviously, Allen Robinson joined, but if OBJ comes, man, that's going to be a pretty hefty wide receiver room, that's for sure. Talking about OBJ, his previous team there, quarterback Baker Mayfield, he was excused for a mandatory minicamp, which was kind of an interesting move because usually, guys are trying to bail out there with contract disputes, and it's always like a negative thing. But the Browns said, no, don't come to mandatory minicamp. And now it sounds like things are getting a little bit spicy for the Panthers. I think the report mentioned that, there was a sense of urgency because if they're going to trade for him, they want to get him with some OTAs and some minicamp. So that way they can, start to see him in the offense and as many reps as possible, starting to solidify himself in that offense. So the Panthers have sent out their offer. Obviously that situation has not resolved itself yet. But the expectation is that maybe Baker Mayfield could become a Carolina Panther sometime this offseason. So that's something to keep some eyes on. And finally, Ryan Fitzpatrick, one of the favorite quarterbacks to watch, the beard, the off the field antics, the press conferences, all the fun stuff we've come to love from Ryan Fitzpatrick, has officially retired after 17 seasons. And Zach, I think, who was it that might have got that one right in your segment there? That the new home segment. Do you remember that one?
I remember the segment, but I don't remember who went out on the limb to predict that he would go to Fox Sports. So
yeah, it was like Pittsburgh, Carolina, and then NBC Sports or Fox Sports.
Fox Sports.
Yeah, that might be a hit. Might have to go back in that one and reconfigure who actually got free agency right, because that was pretty good. I chuckled when you threw that in the group chat there. But talking about looking good for the press conferences, all those things that Ryan Fitzpatrick has done to impress us. It would have taken it up another level and taken another notch was if he would have showed up to the podium in 22 fresh hoodie or hat. That's the only way, I think that he could have got a little bit more impressive, with that big beard and a comfy hoodie they got from 22 Fresh. That's the way to do it. So 22 Fresh right now, if you go to their website, they're starting to clear a little bit of their previous stock to get ready for some of their summer and fall collection. I guess a little bit of the spring stuff has already dropped. But you can get yourself some 22 Fresh gear and quite a few hoodies. I don't know if the hats might have been sold out by this point, but I know they had a couple hoodies and t-shirts that they're clearing out for very, very cheap. I think there's some hoodies that were on sale for like 75% off. So you can get your hands on some 22 Fresh gear for really cheap, or as they start obviously clearing into their new summer selections and fall selections. As we start getting to closer football season, you can use the promo code 306FFB15. That's 306FFB15 for 15% off your next 22 Fresh purchase. We partnered up with 22 Fresh, and that means you guys at home have partnered up with 22 Fresh. So don't wait. Visit 22 Fresh either in their store locations or at 22fresh.com and use 306FFB15 for 15% off your next purchase. So thank you very much, 22 Fresh, for being our major sponsor of this upcoming NFL season. Now, back to our segment here. It's episode 50. We're hitting a big landmark for us on the podcast, something to celebrate. So we figure what way to celebrate and maybe throw a couple bit of shade at our co-hosts here and see who's hit our ice cold hot takes, the best or the worst, I guess, depending on how we're going to go at this. So we're going to start with Armand, and how we're going to go about this is we're going to talk about our overall record. So we're going to go between our hot takes, our my guys, and our ADP sleepers, guys that we were kind of betting on, and as well as our bold predictions episode as well, where we bet or we tried to guess the winners of the divisions, the Super Bowl, as well as the Super Bowl champion, the Super Bowl MVP, as well as Rookie of the Year. So we've kind of put our bets out there before the season even started, and we're going to get a chance to kind of go back and see how successful we are. So first of all, we'll start off with Armand, and we'll see how he ended up doing throughout the 2021 NFL season.
Okay. And there's a little bit of debate with my record here because we were talking in the group chat before. I put some ties in, and And Jordan thinks they shouldn't count as ties. So
Yeah, we'll
maybe
see you
let
guys
the
think about this
listeners-
one at home, because I think this one's pretty clear, cut, and dry.
Okay, so hot takes. I went 6-4 this season, but I'm gonna say 2 of those losses, I had the right idea, and the team that I was making the hot take about, their coaching staff just made the wrong decision. Because if you look at the stats, if they would have followed my advice, they would have done better.
Armand Schellenberg, future coach of the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Then for my guys in ADPs, I went 1, 1, and 3. Yeah, that's 3 draws there. I'm saying it's a draw because the guys that I'm talking about there, I said they were my guys, and they performed at their ADP, but they didn't outperform their ADP. So that's why I put them as a draw. So like Jordan said, you, the listener at home, can decide if that's a draw or a loss. And then bold predictions, I went 6-7. And then that puts my overall record at 13, 11, and 4. Or if you say those draws aren't draws, or no, that should be 13, 11, and 3. Sorry, because I did not have 4 draws there. But yeah, if you believe that if those draws don't count, 13 and 14.
It's a big difference. That's either 2 games above 500 or 1 game below. So it's a drastic difference in the record, Armand.
Yeah, big difference there. What I will say is that I think I threw out some of the hottest takes this last season though. So yeah.
Yeah, I will definitely give you that. When I looked at your overall rankings, or your overall finish, I should say, I was relatively impressed because you had definitely, by a landslide, had some of the spicier takes. And the fact that several of those very hot ones actually hit was incredibly impressive, because it was like me and Zach are both sitting there basically like, have a glass of milk, your mouth's on fire here, Armand. And somehow a couple of those hit, and it's like, oh man, that's I did not expect that to happen, but that's what hot takes are all about. They're supposed to be off the beaten path, and that's what makes them spicy. And Armand Schellenberg coming in hot this past season with 13, 11, and 3, or 13 and 14, depending on how you fans at home think about Armand's performance. But now going into Zach, let's hear how Zach did in the 2021 season.
There will be a little less controversy here. No discrepancies here on pushes and ties. My hot takes were pretty straightforward. 3-3, 3 wins, 3 L's. My guys and ADP sleepers, I think I did okay here. I was 3-2, and then my bold predictions, 6-7, just like Armand. My faith in the Buffalo Bills let me down, which goes to show that you should never cheer for a trash city. So Bills let me down in a big way.
Spoken like a true New England fan. Can we just say the same thing, Jordan?
Yeah, that's
yes, you guys were
there,
Armand, word for word there. So I finished overall 12-12. So right there at 500, just like Brian Fantana from Anchorman. 50% of the time it works every time.
Unreal. Yeah, and you had a couple of good takes there too, Zach. I was kind of going back through in the prep for some of these, and you're going through some of the segments and some of our prep stuff, and there was a couple of good ones. Like I know you hit there's a few of them, I know we'll get to that in a bit, that you hit like right on the nose. Like it was sitting there, you spoke it into existence, and like some of them hit like week 1 just about. It was pretty impressive.
Kobe Myers.
A couple of those. Yeah, that's the one that was the first one that popped in my head. It was don't let them go through free agency, take them, and you hit in a big way, and what seemed like a messy wide receiver room. But we'll get to some of those hits here in a little bit.
I'm looking at one of your cold takes, Zach, and it definitely affected one of my bold predictions. So when you say that cold take, then I'll say how it affected me. I listened to you.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But you know what? Also putting into consideration, Zach also did pretty good. I think it was, were you 500 or one above 500 in your upsets of the week too? So putting those in consideration, and those ones where I think are a lot more impressive than even these hot takes, because you're making those like well early into the week to try.
Oh yeah, those were Monday at my noon hour, just pulling out of the back pocket.
Firing from the hip, and somehow he was a pretty straight shooter on those. So
absolutely.
For myself, I ended up doing actually more surprising than I thought. Like I thought I did actually pretty poorly, but I started counting them out, and there's a couple that I surprised myself on. So on hot takes, I ended up going 8 correct, 5 incorrect, a couple really wrong, and a couple really right. That it just seemed like there was nothing right up the middle on those. My guys in ADP ended up going 3 for 2. The ADP ones I hit more on the my guys, but I'll get to a couple of my guys here on my big L's. I'll talk about those in a sec. Bold predictions, I did really well. Actually, I ended up going 8 correct and 5 incorrect. My Super Bowl picks helped me in a big way on those ones. So I ended up
that was huge
for 5. And for a grand total of 19 correct, 12 incorrect for a 61% hit rate. So I was actually pleasantly surprised with how I did. So, I was one Super Bowl pick away from getting closer to that 50% range, I think. But I was pleasantly surprised. You think about going back to, and I'll share some of my cold takes here in a second. It's just like, oh man, like I was out to lunch, but then you kind of go through them, and it was not as bad as I thought. So speaking of the cold, we're going to share 1, maybe 2 of some of our worst takes we had throughout the season. And then we're going to go and we're going to finish with the success story. Some of the ones, that we spoke into existence and hit in a big way. So we'll start with Armand on this one. Armand, you got 2 here. You might as well share both. Maybe go which one you think was the least coldest, and then finish with like what was the absolute worst.
Okay. So yeah, my 2 coldest were also what I thought were my most vanilla hot takes of the season. I thought these were slam dunks, put them in the bank. I was like so confident on these ones. In episode 2, I talked about Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry both going to New England, and I was saying they're both going to finish top 8 tight ends. I was looking at tight ends on the from last season and all over, and I was like, you know what, it could happen. Pretty cut and dry though. Hunter Henry finished tight end 9 on the season, so he almost didn't let me down. But then Jonnu Smith just tight end 34. Whew, not even close on that one. And then the one that's probably the coldest of them all, although he did give in Superflex a few good starts. In episode 9, I said that Cam Newton would be worth taking in 1 QB leagues, not even Superflex, 1 QB leagues. And he ended up getting cut by New England before the season even started. And his Carolina stint was just not a good situation. Even if he would have been playing really well, Carolina wasn't in a good position last year, and then trying to learn a new playbook and stuff. Yeah. Not a good pick.
Oh man, hold on. I just love that you're like, and he got cut before the season even started. Just buries himself right off the hop. But yeah, you know what, Armand, that's one, especially the second one. I was with you on that one. No, maybe not so much a single Q, but I was seeing the upside, because Cam Newton with his legs, it's just like it's fantasy gold. But he didn't move as much as he has in the past, and his arm is just gone. It's gone. So it makes it hard. You're not gonna hit them all obviously all the time, but that was one I thought, I was pretty confident with you that he's gonna have some upside, but there wasn't much. There was not much there. Oh, that's good stuff. And I think Zach, you even talked about the QB situation there. I think even before Cam Newton got cut, that there was a little bit of a rocking of the boat, but I think even you thought that was earlier than anticipated.
Yeah, just a little bit. I obviously keep up to date on the Pats, and all the beat writers, all the podcast guys, we're singing Max praises from about July onward. So I didn't think Cam stood a chance to last the season, but I was pleasantly surprised when they cut bait in late August. So sorry, Armando, but I'm very happy that you got that one wrong.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? Then we got to pull those cards in the packs there, and we got to pull the Mac Jones. If Cam Newton lasted the whole season, those Mac pulls would have meant nothing. Hey, Armand.
Yeah, those Mac pulls are huge. I got a few good Mac cards, so all the better for me, anyways. In the end,
Glass half full kind of guy,
Yeah.
Zach, let's hear a couple of your cold ones.
So this was in episode 11, and I just double checked when episode 11 happened. It was July 12th. So there's a very good chance that I was day drinking when I said this. On July 12th, I said that Amari Rodgers, rookie receiver for the Green Bay Packers, would finish as a wide receiver 3. So that is in the top 30 to 36 range in either 10 or 12 team leagues. And Rodgers finished as the wide receiver 81. Below the likes of CJ Board, Jamarcus Bradley, and Dax Milne, some real live NFL players. Rodgers had 7.6 half-point PPR points on the season, which
There's
was
no way he finishes 81. Is it 181?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 181.
Okay,
Did I say 81?
81's not terrible, but 7.6.
Yeah, 181. Pardon me. And so with his 7.6 points overall, he was 134 points behind wide receiver 36.
Just a couple games.
Yeah. So the mojitos must have been flowing that day. I'll tell you that much.
That was just after a good day at Prairie Sun there for sure.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Man, I thought my Newton and tight ends in New England was cold, but holy, that must have been what was keeping your drink nice and cold that day.
When I was doing the research for this episode, I'd go through the episodes and I'd write down my take, and then I would go back, do the research, and then I'd put an X or a check. As soon as I saw this, when I wrote it down, I just big X on to the next. Don't even have to do research.
Yeah.
Knew right away that was a lost cause.
Yeah.
I had one other one that kind of didn't play out the way I thought it would. On episode 5, which was one of my first episodes. This one actually might have been the either the draft episode or the rookie draft episode.
Yeah,
I guess it would have been the draft episode.
Yeah, it was preview. The one there's split into 2, episode 4 and episode 5 in first half.
Because we didn't know where the QBs were going to go at that time. I said whatever QB goes to San Fran will have the best rookie season among the QBs in 2021. And now, of course, we all know that was Trey Lance. And Lance appeared in 6 games on the season, starting 2 of them. And he finished as QB 40 on the year. And he was the 6th rookie quarterback on the season. So I was very surprised. Well, actually, I wasn't surprised earlier this week when I did the research that it turned out that way. But at the time, I really thought, they sold the farm. Whoever they were going up there to get, they had all the faith in the world, and they would have started him more than twice. But stupid me, what the heck do I know?
This is the one.
Sorry, go ahead, Armand.
Oh, this is the one where I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and during my my bold predictions, I put Trey Lance as my rookie of the year candidate. So. We both were pretty cold with that, I guess.
Yeah, you were definitely not the only person in this boat, Zach. If you listen to any other fantasy football podcasts or analysts or articles, it was like rookie 101, Trevor Lawrence. But if you take Trey Lance, you're not out to lunch. He was like, people were drinking the Kool-Aid, as Armand said. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are sitting there Trey Lance stock, and even they're still a little bit nervous at this point. I think couple of rumors at a camp that he was struggling a little bit off the hop. Obviously, haven't traded Garoppolo yet. What to expect? I'm sure if you went and traded for Trey Lance right now in a dynasty league. I'm sure that's still a smart play at this point. He's a young quarterback that can move, but that did not play out. If you would have said he would have been outside the top 5, I'd have said you're smoking something crazy, because like for Davis Mills to sneak in there. And actually, you know what? I think Davis Mills ended up being like the 4th or something, wasn't he?
He's probably better than Wilson in New York, and he might have been better than Fields in Chicago. So
he might have been
top 3.
Yeah, because Lawrence was so and Mills actually had I would say a pretty successful rookie campaign, but that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so I put one really stinky one in here, and then the other one, it's kind of a two-parter because I took him as my guy, and I also did a hot take about him. So I'll do the consolation one first because it's not as bad. But if you listen to this podcast from early on, you know how high I was on Clyde Edwards-Helaire going into this upcoming season. It just seemed too good to be true. He had one of the lowest touchdown per attempts in the red zone coming into this upcoming season. He ended up losing one of his running backs that he was sharing targets with. So it just all seemed, just to be good for him. And somehow he was just sitting right in that, that second, third round, and his ADP of RB18 was just like, oh man, like that's a smash. Like how can he do worse? So I was all on CEH. I said smashing his ADP for RB18. He finished as RB41. So I was definitely wide of the mark. I missed time due to injury, and even when he was on the field, he struggled. So I had the hot take, and then as my guy, so that's a double L right there on that one. So that one hurt, but this one's bad. I will admit. I remember reading this one, and it was when I was recording in the garage, so I still remember this just vividly. I was sitting there and saying, I'm going to get some flack for this one because I think people listening are gonna chirp me for this one, but I was rather confident on this one. And it was that Justin Jefferson was not going to be the highest scoring sophomore wide receiver in 2021. At the time, there was obviously, I was looking at the list, it's like Michael Pittman, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. I even had like Henry Ruggs written down. We obviously know that that didn't pan out, but I was thinking there's a lot of sophomore wide receivers that could take the next big jump. And I kind of thought the Justin Jefferson was a little bit of a slump, or not a slump, a blimp. And I thought, that Kirk Cousins would go back to kind of typical old Kirk Cousins. And I was wrong in a big way, because not only was Justin Jefferson by far the number one sophomore, he was finished as wide receiver number 4 on the season and was awfully close to that. I mean, he wasn't going to catch Cooper Kupp, but he was awfully high there in that to be the top 3 wide receiver on the season. So obviously finishing wide receiver 4 on the year was the number 1 sophomore. And then the next up was Michael Pittman at wide receiver 15, and then CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 18. So a pretty substantial gap between him and any other wide receivers. And, I had it in my gut that I thought he was going to kind of slow down, and it was just kind of a blip. But Justin Jefferson is a premier elite wide receiver and should not be doubting his abilities.
You need to insert your little noise there now.
Yeah, which one here? You want my crickets, or do you want which one do you want? Here, I'll go crickets. You should have told me better, Army. You're the Vikings guy. You should have told me, but I think I was just maybe confident with my Lions stopping him twice in a season, which didn't really happen either.
I vaguely remember this take because I was a little like, come on, man, like not my Viking. And I don't remember if I did actually try and be contrarian to you or not. I feel like I would have, but like your reasoning is hard to argue with on that one, though, with Lamb and Pittman, Jeudy, Ruggs. Like, it was such a talented wide receiver draft anyways, that it's not like it's like betting with the field for Cooper Kupp, like we just did earlier this draft. So
you know what? It might have been the same day you did your penny take. So maybe that's why we might have got a little bit off topic there pretty quick. So that could be the reason. But
you're mad I was throwing shade at Carson.
I'd have to go back and vet it, but there's a good chance that was what it was. But yeah, that was not my fondest. And I remember going, same as Zach, you going through doing your research And then it was just like, which am I going to plug in? It was like, I don't even have to look at the rest of my takes because I know this is by far my worst one. This is so bad. So just plug it right into the coldest take. But now, like obviously some of them were bad, but some of them were actually pretty good. It's nice to see in the docket that we got a few extra ones we want to talk about in the hit column compared to our bad ones. So we'll let Armand start this one out, and he's got a couple that he wants to, take a victory lap on.
All right. So episode 1, I started real hot here. I'm putting this one in here, but I have a few more after it because it was a win, but it was almost an empty win because this happened. It was about Deshaun Watson, but before all the legal stuff came, and I said he is not going to be moved before the season, and he's not even going to play a single down for the Texans again. That obviously came to happen, but not for him holding out, but because of legal stuff. So small victory lap there, but my reasoning wasn't 100% accurate. Episode 3, though, my hot take for that one was my most accurate hot take that I had. I said that Sam Darnold will do no better statistically than Teddy Bridgewater did for the Carolina Panthers the year before. And boy, oh boy, did I actually hit in that one. Every single statistical category, Teddy Bridgewater outperformed Sam Darnold. He was even a better asset than Darnold this past year in 2022. So I feel like I hit really hard on that, considering especially that it was every single statistical category, every single measurable. Teddy did better than Sam Darnold did. And then my hottest take of them all, the one that I've taken a few victory laps already on, was Rashad Penny being fantasy relevant in 2021. I got a little lucky with injuries, but you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. So I'm very happy that one hit, and we'll see if he can continue, although I really like Kenneth Walker. So I am battling internally there on whether or not I want Penny or Walker to be the guy in Seattle.
Speaking of Walker, did you see that he actually prefers to go by Ken? After calling him Kenneth for so long, it seems so weird, like Ken Walker. That just seems real odd, but yeah. Especially when you're calling him Kenneth Walker the third. Like it was like so formal. Now it's like Ken. Yeah. Unreal. But yeah, that was a big hit. That was one that I could have rode off into the sunset saying, I'll bet the house that there's no way this is correct. And yeah, there it is. I think the other one was like the crazy one too. You said was that CMC was going to get out-touched or outperformed by Chuba, and I was like, no, that one's not happening. And then he goes down to injury, and here it is. It's like, holy man.
You know what? I put that one as a loss though for myself.
Because he seems he still outproduced him, didn't he?
Well, per game he did. And my take was that it was going to be an RBBC, and it was going to be a successful RBBC.
Oh yeah.
But when CMC was in, he was the clear-cut bell cow.
Yeah, it was close.
Yeah.
But hey, there's no such thing as close, only in horseshoes and hand grenades. Zach, let's hear a couple of your hits.
So my favorite one was my Jacoby Myers take, where in episode 9, I predicted he would far outperform his ADP of wide receiver 77 at the time and finish as a wide receiver 2, which is top 20 or top 24. Unfortunately, he didn't quite get to that wide receiver 24 threshold, but he did finish as wide receiver 29. And by doing so, he way outperformed his ADP of where he was likely going undrafted in some leagues. And while, like I predicted, he wouldn't be a league winner, he was likely a valuable piece of any fantasy lineup.
Yeah, that you were talking with Jacoby Myers well before we even got into some of the hot takes on how much you liked him. And And obviously as a Pats guy, you watch, he gets his first touchdown. The team likes him. So I'm sure it's easy as a Pats fan to like him, and as a fantasy owner to be able to believe in somebody like that.
Yeah. And like Booby Miles, he can throw too.
Yeah.
There was another one that, yeah, there's one more that I didn't go too far into detail on. I think it might have been my very first hot take ever with the pod. And I predicted that none of the rookie running backs from this past season would surpass 63 rushing yards a game. And there is only two of them that did, Najee Harris and Elijah Mitchell. And Harris, if you take out the last game of this season where he had like 188 yards, his average was like 64.8. So he just hovered above that 63-yard threshold. And Mitchell, I don't know what the heck happened there, but he did it.
Yeah,
he kind of came on in the after the first month, and on a per game basis, he averaged like 88 yards. So good for him.
My dark horse, baby.
Yeah, thank you, Armand, for that one. I made sure I got him, and a few weeks ago I flipped him for Chris Olave. So let go and let God, off into the sunset, Elijah Mitchell.
That one you could put into the hits, even though we were just talking about draft prospects, but that was another hit. Armand just has a way of finding these dark horse running backs. So that's why listening to our rookie prospects episode is like, what RB did Armand talk about that I may want to try and pick up my dynasty leagues in my 4th round? And there's a couple that that was very interesting. So can't wait for the season to start to see how many of those he hit on too. But when I was going through these, we originally talked about, we're going to talk about one, and that's what we're going to talk about. But then as we kind of started adding to our docket here, it's just like there were so many things we all wanted to talk about. And I got a couple hits that I'm quite proud of. Some of them maybe were low hanging fruit, but there's a couple of them that was like, holy man, like that took a little bit of gusto maybe to go into some of these takes. So I think one that's maybe was easier to predict, especially with some of the evidence or some of the analytical stuff I proposed, was about Kyle Pitts and then busting at his ADP. Just historically, the rookie tight ends, just it's hard for them to produce. And thank God he didn't get all those touchdowns. He only got 1 touchdown this season, because he would have got a ton of those touchdowns. He actually could have maybe hit his ADP, but it was just talking about Kyle Pitts as a bust at ADP. He was getting drafted as the tight end 4, 5, 6 in that floating range in most drafts, and he did not even come close to that. So that one was a hit. It was kind of a little more predictable, but a hit nonetheless. This one I actually found pretty interesting. Was in the very first episode. Actually, was when me and Armand we were just still the two of us on the very first episode, and nervous and shaky and trying to figure out how we're going to do this podcast thing. I talked about the 3 big names of free agency: Allen Robinson, Kenny G, and Chris Godwin, and how their situations were going to get worse, if not stay the same, going into the upcoming season. And obviously we saw what happened. Allen Robinson dropped off a cliff. Kenny Galladay was absolutely brutal. And Chris Godwin was about status quo, slightly less than his performance before. Obviously losing Antonio Brown is going to help him moving forward this upcoming season. But that was a hit on episode 1 that I kind of forgot about. So it was kind of neat to go back in time to see. I'm going to save my big one for last, because that one was kind of a throw out there. But I think also picking the Rams to win the Super Bowl was a pretty big hit in the bold predictions. It's difficult to do, especially when you're picking a team that was outside the top 5 of favorites to win the Super Bowl at the time. I just believed in Matthew Stafford, and obviously wanted to see him chase a ring. And just with that defense, I thought it was plausible, and obviously that came to fruition. So that was a significant hit and got me 2 points in the bold predictions takes. But my biggest one in the season was the Deebo Samuel from episode 13, when Armand was absolutely ripping me shade from our Scott Fish draft, and he was just saying that was the worst pick I made in my entire draft. I think I got him in like the 9th round or the 8th round, and Armand was like, that's the worst pick you could possibly make, because he was incredibly high on names escape me, sophomore wide receiver from Ayuk. Thank you. He was ripping me on that one, and I just came out and said, you know what, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 1, but he's got to stay healthy. And I can't take full credit, because like I did not see what he did coming. Wide receiver 2 and carrying the ball, what was it, like 86 carries. Like I did not see that coming, not even close. But he did finish as wide receiver 2. And because I talked about like the steal of ADP and, you know, the upside of him if he stays healthy. And he hadn't even had a healthy season yet. So there is a lot of moving parts of this one, you know, staying healthy, producing, and becoming this high-end wide receiver 2. And that one hit, and it hit in a big way. So I was always a fan of him. I drafted him. I think it was pick 202 in my rookie draft the year he came in. So I was a big fan of him. Unfortunately, I traded him before the season, so I didn't get to experience the full satisfaction other than Scott Fishbowl of having Deebo Samuel. But that was my biggest hit, and I'm not going to expect those to come around too often, because that was a big one. And I just like digging at Armand a little bit every time because he was throwing the shade at me, so it's my turn to throw it right back.
Oh man, I was so nervous about Deebo last year, and I thought Ayuk looked so great, and he was one of my losses in the my guys because he was like being drafted. I have it here. Give me a second.
Round 5, I think wasn't it 5th round ADP?
He had an ADP of 62. And he finished as wide receiver 36. Yeah.
And that's on the piggyback of a pretty good second half of the season. Like his first half of the season stunk. Like he was unplayable.
Benched.
Yeah, like lots of people are dropping him for free agency. But then that second half of the season, he was kind of back to what you could expect. Like he was having some pretty big games. But then that's Deebo under center, so somebody's got to be wide receiver 1, you know? So he's a name that's interesting to follow this upcoming year. I've been reading a few articles about him, and can you expect from more of the early or more of the late? You know, he was in the doghouse a bit too. You know, they said they was dogging it during camp, and so he was kind of battling uphill a little bit from the get-go, but he did finish pretty strong.
Yeah. The one that I was gonna pick a bone with you there was the Pitts one, but I forgot how high he was getting drafted because I looked at him and I was like, he finished tight end 7. Like, looking at the guys last year, like there's no way there was 6 guys that weren't getting drafted ahead of him at the tight end position. And I like a few names. I was like Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle definitely going before him. I thought Goddard and Gesicki and Fant might be going before him, but I guess after those top 4 guys that
he was tight end number 3 in our charity league.
Yeah, like that's wild. I forgot how high he was going.
And it just kept going. It just kept going. Yeah. Like I was comfortable at like 7-8. Like that was like, okay, you know, it's worth a shot. But then it just kept going. No, it was no dice. But speaking of, you know, we went through our hits, we went through the not so hits, but we're in a new season of Ice Cold Hot Takes here. We've obviously all kind of shared. I think this is Zach's had 2. Armand this is his second, and then I'll have my second one coming up here. So it's Armand's turn for Ice Cold Hot Takes. We'll hit the drop and we'll see what he got to share for us this time.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire.
All right, I have 3 that I've been bouncing around in my brain today. They all have to do with running backs. So it's going to be a bit of a choose your own adventure, boys. Do you guys want like ghost pepper hot? Do you want jalapeno pepper hot? Or do you want banana pepper hot?
Zach, are you a spicy guy? Do you like spicy food?
I would probably be that the second one, the jalapeno. Ghost pepper, not for me.
Yeah, I like spicy. Like I put banana peppers on sandwiches, so that's no problem. Jalapenos, yeah, I like jalapenos. Ghost peppers, it's like once in a blue moon. I gotta be in the mood, so I think I'm gonna go with Zach. Let's go down the middle on this one, and maybe on one of those Sunday or what do you call them, Zach? The July 12 days.
Yeah.
One of those ghost pepper ones.
Yeah, some mojitos on the deck. Ghost peppers.
Pepper.
All right. So my jalapeno hot take is I've been hearing a lot of negative talk about Derrick Henry. He's still sitting pretty high in fantasy pros for his ADP in Dynasty. He's still sitting at in tier 1 and of the overall rankings as the 4th best Dynasty asset. But there's been a lot of shade thrown at him this last year. People are wondering if he's still got it, if he's still going to be the beast that he once was. So I decided to do a little digging here. So the first thing I was looking at is how has he been this offseason? And like, this is always, I'm saying this one first because it's not always easy to trust this stuff, but you look at his workouts, he's looking like a beast. Some people are saying he's in the best shape of his life, but you hear for a lot of guys, right? But you know, that at least means that he's not in less shape than he was before, right? And then looking at the injury, it was a broken foot, broken bone in his foot, and it's very important for planting and everything, but that's something that can heal, and even if it's not fully healed, you don't lose a whole lot if it's still a little stiff in your foot. It's not like your knee or your shoulder or something. A foot is a little bit easier to deal with that stiffness that might come with an old injury, right? And then I was looking at their strength of schedule. The Tennessee Titans' strength of schedule versus RBs this year on Fantasy Pros is listed as the 11th easiest schedule. So for a guy like Derrick Henry, who's a premier running back in this league, to have a juicy schedule like that, almost top 10 easiest is pretty good. So my hot take is that Derrick Henry is going to be the rushing leader this year, and in standard leagues, because I know in half PPR and full PPR he's not quite as valuable, so in standard leagues he's going to be RB1 and has a good shot of being RB1 in PPR leagues.
There's definitely a path to that happening. It's just a matter of does he still have it or does he not have it? Because you're battling with guys like Christian McCaffrey, who, like you already mentioned, in full point, half point PPR is obviously superior, but you're going down into that standard leagues where those catches don't mean as much. You still get the yards, but you don't get those half points, full points for the receptions. Guys like Eckler outside looking in, CMC, you could argue could still maybe hit that ceiling. Jonathan Taylor kind of fits that mold a little bit, but then you're looking at guys like James Conner that's going to have to kind of surpass him. Like there's kind of that tier break, so there's definitely a pathway for that take to be successful.
Yeah, that's why it's not the ghost pepper, but I figured to make it jalapeno hot it has to be RB1 or bust.
Give us a teaser. Who was the ghost pepper about? Just give us that.
Packers backfield.
Oh,
predictable.
Yeah,
we all know where that's going.
I get the writings on the wall on that one.
Yeah, but that's against all consensus. Every consensus is going the opposite way of what I was gonna say. So
yeah, you might be able to just slap that one in there as a double down. Just one guy's gonna absolutely
too predictable.
Another guy's gonna crush it.
It's because the take wasn't about AJ Dillon. It was about Kylan Hill, I bet. Right, Armand? That's why it's against all consensus.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, he hits on those random RBs, so go pick him up in Dynasty Leagues, guys. Kylan Hill RB1 season. The three-headed monster of that backfield, I'll tell you.
Yeah, don't sleep on Patrick Taylor. That's RB4 in that backfield.
I'm pretty sure he did my taxes. Patrick Taylor. That guy's not a running back. There's no way.
That is a create your own player in Madden. Just two super generic names slapped together.
5'1" and 390 pounds.
I was gonna say it's like in hockey sometimes they just call in the random guy from senior league to come play when they're down.
That's the what's it called?
Zamboni driver.
The emergency backup goalie. That's what's gonna happen when Armand's hot take gets going there. They're gonna have an emergency running back. Really get things going. Anything to add to your fellas before we wrap this one up?
Not really. It's been a good time. 50 episodes. I haven't been along for the whole ride, but it's been a really good time.
Yeah, it was fun to look back at these things, and I hope you all enjoyed hearing about our old takes and how we felt about them and everything. I stand by what I said.
Yeah, it's like Zach said, 50 episodes, but it's the off season it can be dull. Some days there's a lot to talk about, and other days it's kind of just us just trying to create some content, and that's what some of these ice cold hot takes are. We're kind of grasping at straws at something that we think is plausible, and obviously, like Armand mentioned, we're going against the grain. That's what makes it hot, and it's kind of fun to see that, even when we're still trying to figure out some of these spicy takes, we're still finding a little bit of success. But it's one of my favorite parts last year was rapid fire. It seemed like our ice cold hot takes took 35 minutes because we all threw one out there. But I kind of like this idea where we can kind of bounce our ideas off each other after somebody shares their ice cold hot take. But that's going to do it, everybody, for episode number 50. We're halfway there to the big 100, which is going to come just as quick as I think these first 50 did. So obviously a big thank you to 22 Fresh. Like I said, if you want to really capitalize on the opportunity, they've got the clearance sale on right now, but you can also utilize something that's not on clearance by going to get the 306 FFB15 promo code. So big thank you to 22 Fresh. Check them out at 22fresh.com. And on behalf of Armand, Zach, and myself and the 306 fantasy football community, thank you very much for listening. Take care, everybody, and let's talk soon.